Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
And what a game it was as the Calgary Flames take down the Los Angeles Kings. Your score 2-1 in a feisty playoff-like affair between the Flames, who, as David W. says in chat, welcome back, David, been a while, to keep pace with the Vancouver Canucks in the push for the wildcard race, and also take down one of the leaders in the Pacific. But before I go any further, with the Calgary Flames having their Indigenous ceremonies and recognition and celebration today, I thought it'd be appropriate to start with a land acknowledgement. The Calgary area, where the Bow and Elbow rivers meet, is a place of confluence, where the sharing of ideas and opportunities naturally come together. Indigenous peoples have their own names for this area that have been used long before Scottish settlers named this place Calgary. The Métis Nation call the Calgary area Otoskune. In Blackfoot language, they call this place Mokinsis. In Nakota Wasabi, they refer to the Calgary area as Wixipa, Oyade, and the people of the Tsuut'ina Nation call this area Kotitsi. We appreciate and acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the ancestral and traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, made up of the Siksika, Piikani, I always pronounce this one wrong, I apologize, Amkitskipani, and the Kainai First Nations, the Etheka, Nakota, Wiskabi First Nations, comprised of the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Goodstoney First Nations, and the Tsuut'ina First Nation. The city of Calgary is also homeland to the historic Northwest Métis and to the Métis government, or the Ostapennuak Métis government, Métis Nation Battle River Territory, the Nose Hill District 5, and Elbow Métis District 6. We acknowledge all Indigenous people who have made Calgary their home and have made it so great. As well, I would be remiss to not think of all of you who may be joining us from the Los Angeles area. The Calgary Flames wore patches on the back of their helmets, and the Kings wore patches on their shoulders, recognizing the efforts of the Los Angeles Fire Department in preventing the 4 area fires that surround Los Angeles. We'd also like to recognize all the Canadian firefighters that are down manning the water bombers that have been doing everything they can, despite running into drones, to contain these fires. I speak for all of us here at the Game Over Network when we say our thoughts are with you, we hope for the best, and our thoughts are with Los Angeles. With all of that said and done, the California kid takes home a win, and the Flames continue the struggle to fight for that playoff spot in the West. Now that I've got everything I wanted to say out of the way, I got to do some of our advertisements. So shift into Hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your news source for all the biggest stories in hockey. For a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and even more. Join Max Van Oot, Daphne Malbouf, and Kevin Larmé every Tuesday and Friday for your fill of the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network host channel, or subscribe to the podcast on your podcaster of choice. Make sure to like and leave a review. Or, if you want to find out more about any of our network shows, head on over to our website, thegameovernetwork.com, for more. Now, there's not going to be a ton to review, because obviously only 3 goals in today's games, but I think that really does change things, how we look at this game and analyze it, and I gotta give us one of these. As holy moly is that game a different story without some phenomenal backstop from the work of Dustin Wolf, especially in the first period where the LA Kings fired 17 shots on goal. And I gotta say, that's a move that a lot of teams have kind of been trying to utilize as of late, with the Calgary Flames being notoriously slow starters. And you have to remember, these are the same Kings that played literally in Winnipeg last night. So they are probably dog tired coming into the Dome. But they take 17 shots, only allow 4, and that's 17 shots that were on goal. If I was listening correctly, I thought I heard numbers north of 30 shot attempts in the first period, depending on who you ask. But oh boy, did Dustin Wolf had to stand on his head in the first. And Jacob Mulvary, the opening goal, his first NHL goal, comes off a wrist shot. Just the Flames a little bit too casual, trying to exit their zone. Turn it over to the D-man, and he fired it home. It was a great shot for the first of your NHL career. Probably a memorable goal for him. But obviously, when you score your first, you want it to be in a win, and the Flames didn't really want that to be the case now, did they? So it was a different Flames team you saw coming out in the second period. It really seemed to be that there was a whole group effort in trying to limit shots, or at least make them come from the perimeter area. Only goal in the second period was a even strength marker coming off the stick of Matt Coronato. Good hard work by Backlund, forcing the mistake. Coleman gets it off the boards. And everyone says Matt Coronato has one of the fastest releases in the league, and we saw it on display there. Matt Coronato scores his 10th of the season, and I know there's been lots of chatter around Connor Zary, and obviously we heard news, and we'll talk about that later, about what a lightning rod he's been for this team at points. But Matt Coronato, this might have been his game where he announces to the NHL, you need to pay attention to me and if I get some time and space, because the twine is not safe. Rang a couple posts too. So, that'll bring us through 2 periods of play. Also have to make mention of, in that second period, was the first of 2 Ryan Lomberg fights. Oh, do I not have him on this? Oh, I don't. Where did I put my Lamborghini? Oh, I don't have it on this one. Technology, don't you love it? But yeah, the first of 2 fights from Ryan Lomberg. And, you know, it really seemed to spark the boys coming out of that second period. Oh, I apologize. Never mind. I'm trying to get the Lamborghini picture from my other scene. And get it on this solo one, because I think it's fun. We'll get it in here. There we go. There's the... Oh, wait. You can't see it, but I can. Haha. There we go. The Lamborghini putting pedal to the metal. And, you know, I thought we'll be kind. We're a Flames favored show here on Game Over Calgary. And Ryan Lomberg, we'll call it a draw against Tanner Jeannot. It probably wasn't. Probably was it, if we had to put the scorecards, it probably would be 10-8 for Jeannot, but having the Lamborghini even be involved was brilliant. There we go. That looks a little bit better, so I'm not eating Ryan Lomberg's head. It's like that Kids in the Hall bit. I'm squishing your head. But anyways, that brings us to the third period, where Flames power play, it looked like the Kings were going to be able to kind of kill it off, but again, some good work by the first unit, cycling it around, not allowing the puck to get out of the zone. Kadri holds, waits. Coronato once again finds space and fires, and as our co-host and I, Matt DeMille, have talked about, Jonathan Huberdeau might not score another pretty goal in his career, but if he keeps scoring like that, I don't think Huberdeau or the Flames fan base is necessarily going to complain. Huberdeau's 18th assist to Coronato, who has 12 assists on the year too. And Nazem Kadri gets his 14th assist of the year. Some pressure comes from the Kings. They take a late penalty, allows the Flames to kind of ice this one. And despite being outshot at the end of the day, 32-18, that gets us home with another Ryan Lomberg fight in the period. This one was one of the ones where he didn't necessarily premeditate it like he did with the first, but did not like the hit that Kyle Burrows leveled on Walker Dewar. And so, two fights for Lomberg, determining that he's going to be the tough guy to answer the bell, no matter if the guy he's fighting is about 6 inches taller than him, as it was in both occasions on the night tonight. And according to the NHL 3 stars, Matt Coronato, Dustin Wolf, and Jonathan Huberdeau, I can't argue with that. Wolf, a goals against average of 1, obviously, and a .969 save percentage in the affair tonight. And it has to be said for Dustin Wolf, because I think that's where we'll end this period number 1, is talking about the play of mostly the Flames goaltender. We'll talk about the former Flames goaltender for Los Angeles as well. But Dustin Wolf, with his 3rd start in a row, obviously Dan Vladar was scheduled to make the start in Los Angeles before its postponement, but comes back home. Huska has his media availability and tells all that are assembled he wants to win games, so he's going to play the goaltender he gives him the best chance, and Dustin Wolf has been lights out playing on the Saddledome ice surface. You have to hope that in the future, you just play the best goaltender. You don't worry about necessarily the fatigue levels. Like, I'm not telling you to go play Dustin Wolf 62 Mika Kiprasov games in a year. But understand that Wolf has put himself firmly into that 1A seat rather than he's a young rookie goaltender. He has to be the 1B, and Dan Vladar is going to get the majority of the tough starts. Because that's kind of been the argument against Dustin Wolf to this point, is the tough starts are going to Dan Vladar. But this Kings squad, they are starting to become a real wagon. We saw it today. They're a tough team to play against. They're Daryl Sutter's wet dream. They grind you into the corners in the O zone. They don't make transitions easy through the neutral. And they block a ton of shots in their own zone, which really allows both of their goaltenders in Vladar, and I think it's Kemper is their other one in this year. Yeah, Darcy Kemper, their other goaltender, to both probably have better numbers than you think when you look at the 2 nameplates on the back of those jerseys. We do have to say, Big Save Dave came up big a couple times tonight and just ran into a brick wall on the other side. However, does it, due to the lack of flame shots hitting the net, does see him only record an .889 on the night. But I think you have to say the Flames at times were pressing. And the fact that Dan Vladar, that this was only a 1 goal game, and that goal came with 5 minutes left in the third, can't really fault Big Save Dave here, as much as he's been much maligned over the last 2 years. And again, kind of serving in this backup role for LA in a 1A, 1B system. So big shout outs to the former Flame and fan favorite for a lot of his time here in Calgary. But that's all for the review of the box score and talk about the goaltenders. We'll head on to period number 2. And we'll take Ryan Lomberg off the screen in his Lamborghini, as he had a great game, but we'll talk about him a little bit later and something that I saw online, and we'll talk. Just hear me out on this one, folks. As we head into our second period, let me get you this one more message. Game Over Network is a proudly independent production focused on community, inclusion, and quality people. If you're interested in supporting the Game Over Network, we have crowdfunding options available. So, Andrew has taken a lot of time after the new year working on the Patreon. So we're really focusing on how we can be more involved with you guys at home. Whether that's you want to go play a game of Marvel Rivals, hearing me smack talk Kaya and Kaya try to get under my skin the whole time, we can do that. If you want to go play Jackbox with me smack talking Yari Curry and upsetting Avery, we can do that. If you want to do a stream where me and Charlie talk about OBS and how we get the Lomberg and the Sensed graphic. We can do that, but we want to hear from you. And what else we can do to garner your support. So check out our new Patreon as it keeps getting revamped. Please, if you have a cup of coffee that you feel, you know what, I can live without it for the month, and throw us a couple dollars, we really appreciate it. So any of your ideas, let us know on Twitter, Instagram, or Discord. Or, hey, I'm off of Meta Properties. I'm now on Blue Sky. Come join us where the skies are bluer. So, Matt Coronato. I'm going to be fully transparent, as I was a little worried with this young player. Because we all, as Flames fans, we understand what previous guys who've come from Harvard did to not play in this city. Of course, I'm talking about Adam Fox and his holdout and forcing a trade to get out of Calgary. But Matt Coronato, there were fears he could do the same. And oh man, am I happy he hasn't forced his way out of Calgary, because he is quickly turning into one of the elite shooters in this league. When you look at guys like Alexander Ovechkin, guys like Patrick Laine, who's doing a very similar role for the Montreal Canadiens right now, I think that's kind of the mold you're starting to see come out of this young American player, and that's exactly kind of what the Flames need. Especially in the land where Igor Sharangovich can't find a goal, Andrei Kuzmenko can't shoot the puck. Oh my god, Andrei Kuzmenko, you drove me nuts today. You had a prime opportunity to shoot, turnover on the half boards, and what do? You drive to the goal line and try and jam it through the pads of David Riddick. There's a guy who has no confidence right there. Dances a guy out of his skates. Defender for the Kings, I don't know who it was, is literally picking himself off the ground. You have time and space to shoot, but I digress. Matt Coronato. He has been a shining light all season, in my opinion, ever since he got that call-up from the Wranglers squad of the AHL. And I think tonight might have been that night where he's firmly put that stamp in that I am not going back to the A. I am one of those players that this team is going to rely on in this retool, rebuild, whatever we're doing in this city. And if you were like me and you went and watched highlights of what he was doing down at Harvard, you shouldn't be shocked. That's been his calling card all throughout every level of hockey he's played in. It just took him a few seasons to say, oh, this is how the NHL game works. This is the spot I have to find. And you saw those gears starting to grind on his power play assist, where Kadri was sitting and waiting. And instead of just parking himself in between the two defenders at the hash marks, he took a few gliding steps backwards to give himself a little extra space, a little extra time, understanding where he needed to be. Gets a brilliant shot off, gets the rebound, and gets the game-winning goal for Jonathan Huberdeau. It's been brilliant to watch, and obviously, you hope Connor Zary isn't gone too long. I'm hearing 8 to 9 weeks, similar to what Patrick Laine's absence was for the Habitants. But in the absence of a guy like Connor Zary, that is what you need to see from Matt Coronato, and he brought it tonight. And I'm going to look here at chat. Some guy named Avery out of Edmonton saying, Wolf and Coronato will be playing in NHL All-Star games one day. If this trend continues, and we can have more than one player from each team as a offensive player get to the All-Star games, I've got a gripe about that. I would love to see 3 names in Wolf, Coronato, and Connor Zary if he comes back and continues his trajectory after the injury. All be All-Star games, Four Nations face-offs, whatever this NHL decides to throw our way. I'd love to see all 3 of those guys get nominated, because I think they're kind of hidden gems. Obviously, there was the fringe people in Calgary media. Well, I guess Francis isn't fringe, but there were names saying that Connor Zary needed to be more included in Calder talks last year. And then to have the season he had in what's supposed to be the sophomore slump season. The Flames might have youth. Like, there's a lot of people, myself included. If you remember back to the video me and Peter did to start the season, we weren't too thrilled with what the depth coming from the AHL was. And now look at what the Wranglers are doing. They're top place in the Pacific and the A, and the players that have come up, whether it be Justin Kirkland, whether it's going to be Rory Cairns, whether it's Matt Coronato, who spent a stint down with the men who wear the W on their chest. They've all been coming back better. Maybe we see the return of Adam Klapka with what could potentially be an injury to Walker Duehr, who I think maybe needs to go back on waivers when he does get healthy, because we'll talk about that fourth line in period number 3 today. But for the majority of these players that have gotten the opportunities, they've all made the most of it coming up to the big show. So I've been really, really happy with some of the depth that's come up and been given opportunities. Whether that's whatever Trent Cull was teaching when he was down with the Wranglers, just getting guys ready to take that next step, or whether that's a system that Ryan Huska has put in place. There is these opportunities for these players to grow, and I've been loving seeing it. Now the fact that Coronato is starting to take that step, nothing but good things for this Calgary Flames organization moving forward. Hey, maybe we don't need the first round draft pick that we're going to give up to the Montreal Canadiens, and they're just going to get even better. But I digress. Let's not think about the future. Let's think about tomorrow. And before I go to this next segment, because I'm going to be a little bit negative in period number 3, let's count our lucky stars as Flames fans that wasn't a lot worse of an outcome for Conor Zary. Because as of this time, the Flames are saying no surgery will be required, even though they didn't come out and say what the injury was. I likely think he's probably going to head out to the clinic in Canmore, one of Canada's top knee clinics, to get some more scans and have things looked at, to potentially say if it's maybe a kneecap, because hyperextensions in that area can see sometimes the meniscus be the injury point, from what I've heard. Of course, I'm not a doctor. I'm a guy that talks to a camera. If you ever see me wearing a stethoscope, it's not real. But the fact that Conor Zary is not going under the knife has to be seen as a huge blessing. Because, as we know, as soon as that scalpel touches the knee, it's likely the end of the season. We've seen it twice this year. As I said in the last game in Anaheim, because, yeah, we're supposed to have a game in between, but I was the last host. If that was another season-ending knee injury for the Flames, I think you need to start bringing out the sage and, like, burn it around the locker room to clear out the bad juju. But we can count our lucky stars. No surgery, just rehab. Gonna be without him for 2 months. Is that maybe change the direction this team goes? As I said, that's tomorrow's problem. I'm just happy tonight. But let's head on to period number 3, where we do need to get a little bit more serious. I know, me serious on this program doesn't happen very often. But before we do that, Game Over has you covered after the game, but in order to get ready to watch your favorite team or your favorite sport, you need to get your game on. Game On Hockey is a short-form daily news podcast covering everything you need to know from about the hockey world today in under 10 minutes. It's going to be hosted by Graham Mossman, usually. I say usually because we're going to play with that format a little bit. And we are going to be bringing back Game On to our host markets. So that would, of course, be Game On Calgary, hosted by yours truly, Anand, and maybe some new faces. You'll see more of that later as well. But you can find all of that on the Game Over Network YouTube channel and in podcast form in each of the network's locations. That again, that will be coming back soon. Just keep your finger on the pulse if you want to hear more Flames news. So I can tell you, it's fun. But I think it's time to have a conversation about the fourth line. Statistically, they're getting caved in, folks. It's not a if, and, or buts situation. They are statistically awful. One of the worst lines in the NHL in terms of possession, scoring chances against. It's not good. And I've been talking about how Kevin Rooney, at least he's playing on the penalty kill. He's earning his minutes there. Walker Dewar, let's go have him run out his cardio for 8 minutes a night. It's been so bad recently, though, boys and girls. And those who identify elsewhere. Like, it's just been bad. Like, I was listening to some other programs, and it's just starting to hit me that we can't continue with the fourth line the way it is for much longer. As much as I love the energy that Ryan Lomberg brings, and obviously Lomberg might have heard some of that going in and starting 2 dust-ups, if influencing the game and the flow in that way, taking out a top D-man in one of the later stages of a game. But it's time to maybe understand if Walker Dewar's hurt, that's going to force changes. Maybe it's time to call up an Adam Klapka again. Maybe it's time to consider one of the other line mates of Rory Cairns. Maybe it's time to say, hey, Runes, like, we got to sit you for a couple of games, buddy, and just see what we've got. See if we can have a team that doesn't just let the snowball roll downhill. Because maybe it's the point, Avery, I don't know if you're still in chat, but I think maybe we've gotten to the point with Kevin Rooney that the Oilers got to with former Flame Derek Ryan, where you love the player, you love what he brings, you love that he's a decent centerman, you love that he plays shorthanded and gives you those minutes every single night you put him in. But 5-on-5, the jump's not there. The drive isn't, and the defensive positioning is a little wonky. Do you think that's a safe comparison for me to be making there, Avery? If you're still here. And, like, we've had chats in our Game Over Calgary Discord behind the scenes, just, do we need to make a waiver claim for this player or that player? Is that how we need to improve? I'm just going back to look at who I wanted to put a claim on. I know the name was Kaliev. The Flames wanted to put a priority claim in, and Sprong was the name I was thinking of. Avery saying it's not a bad comparison at all. That's true. Now with DR, you can see that the game this times is a bit too fast for him. Yeah, I think we're in a very similar situation with our fourth line centers. And I think in time it's going to be important for both Alberta teams to figure out the fourth line. And Matt C jumping in, I'd like to see a fourth line of Klapka, Cairns, Lomberg. As I said, I loved the days when the Flames had Klapka, Kirkland, Lomberg, where it was the gnat that is Ryan Lomberg just buzzing around, stirring up shit, and then you had 6'4" center Justin Kirkland and 6'8" Adam Klapka just being like, "Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that?" And where you don't have to have your 5'9" short king built like a rock being the only man willing to drop the gloves on that line. So maybe we see those things, those winds of change coming, as it didn't look great seeing Walker Duehr go straight down the tunnel as soon as he got off the ice there after his collision. But that will bring us to our overtime segment. Our overtime segment is going to be questions from those of you in chat. And whether that's Avery or anyone else, I'd love to hear from you. But we'll head on. I'll throw the overtime buzzer up, or light up, and hit our last ad read. What better way is there to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing? Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of the retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our live and die by the goalie design, or if you just need another hot chocolate or coffee mug to get you through the winter, we have you covered. Designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. Use the QR code that I'm going to put on screen when I remember how to do this job. Check all those out. You can use the QR code to get onto the store. Or if you head over to the GameOverNetwork.com, it's just got a drop-down menu and you get to the CGY store. All of these wonderful designs will be there for you to peruse. And if you rock and buy something through the apparel store, helps us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community, which is us. So just looking to see if there's any questions. Let's go all the way back. Matt C. Coronato is a weapon. He is, as we mentioned, that shot. And now the smarts are starting to meet up in the middle, proving that he's been a lot better and maybe hasn't hit his ceiling quite yet.
Warning, incoming game over.
I forgot to turn off the intro. My heart goes out to people across the LA metro area affected by wildfires, although I congratulate California's own Dustin Wolf for having pretty much shut the door on the Kings Village store. We touched on that in period 1. Thank you so much, David. It's been a while to see you around. An important win, that one. We just refused to give this season away for Matt C. Is that a good thing? I think we've had that discussion on this show more than once. Is it good that we're not falling to the wayside and starting to fall down the rankings, getting to that bottom 10, as we all know as Flames fans? Getting that bottom 10, you don't have to give that first round pick away to Montreal from the trade of Sean Monahan. I don't know. It's been fun to cheer for the wins rather than cheer for the small wins. But, I'm still undecided, as I think many Flames fans are. Really conflicted on what the path forward should be. Matt C. A past New York Rangers logo might have been "No Quit in New York." The Flames should have adopted that motto. Don't disagree with David. The "Find a Way Flames" from a few seasons starting to creep back in. And we have all the talk about the Flames and their similarities to the Oilers. And Matt C. Kirkland has been a real loss. Yeah, I talked about this last week. About how the Flames really have had to be that next man up, especially in that fourth line center position. Missing a couple of guys that could have filled that role. I think maybe the biggest loss this season is someone who never played a game for the Flames this year, as he was claimed on the big ad drop day, and that's Cole Schwent. Obviously, he's not centering for the Vegas Golden Knights, but has played more than a few games in those ugly, ugly mustard yellow sweaters. They're not gold, they're mustard yellow. Like, he's been involved. He's playing that fourth line role very well. Played in 35 games this year for the Knights as a +2 on the year. Playing that .930. Maybe that's one of the things when we inevitably have to do an autopsy on this season, whether it's by us raising some big, shiny silver piece of hardware or looking at the draft pick that we end up with. We'll have to figure that one out. But before, you know what? Since we don't have questions in chat, I'll do a little bit of an overtime deep dive here. The NHL released the quarter century team for the Calgary Flames. Your first team being the late Johnny Gaudreau, Jerome McGinley, and Matthew Tkachuk, the three forwards. Of course, no center on that line, but I don't know. It's just the best players. Those are probably three guys that are in the conversation, certainly, to be the top three forwards on this team. Maybe we'll just have Iggy go and bull rush forward every center if this was to actually be a team. Mark Giordano and Robin Regier. I love seeing Reggie on the first team. I thought he would make the second team, but having Reggie be number 2 on the defense, and of course, number 34, Mika Kiprasov, being your first goaltender. And then your second line, a trio of Flame centers, Michael Backlund, Craig Conroy, and Sean Monahan, your 3 forwards, Rasmus Andersson, and Double Dion, your 2 defensemen, and Jacob Markstrom being the second goaltender. You know, I hadn't even, when I was trying to piece my quarter century team together, I totally forgot about what a piece Dion was for us early on in this millennia. And you know what? I think that's probably a safe bet. I might have swapped Rasmus Andersson and Robin Regier. Give us that pairing that did play together when Dion was a Calgary Flame, where you allowed Dion to be Dion by partnering him with maybe the biggest stay-at-home defenseman the NHL has seen in a long time. And I probably would have put Monahan up on the first team, probably over Matty Tkachuk. But I don't think you can really argue with the impact that Tkachuk had. And maybe it's just the bitter taste after the leaving. It still lingers in a lot of Flames fans' mouths. Oh, and I see a question, maybe more of a comment question starter from David here in chat. There's been a lot of talks of the Canucks acquiring Andersson from the Flames. Given how well the Flames have been doing, I see such a trade as unlikely to happen this season. With my already watching another live stream, which I have on mute, I'll be tuning in more and watching that stream, but do look forward to watching the next Flames game if I can. David, thank you so much. I will answer your question, so if you watch the VOD, you can catch my answer. We talked about this last episode, and I know that Kaya's probably going to hate me for saying this, but if Pettersson is the name that the Flames are targeting, because I just let me pull up the Google machine here. Elias Pettersson, another Swede, coming back to Calgary. Of course, Andersson also a Swede. Does kind of match what the Flames need. Somebody who can win faceoffs. Obviously, he shoots left. Another left-handed center coming to the Flames. Who would have guessed it? But I like the fit, but don't love the fit. If you understand what I'm saying. He's kind of been a player that's been a middle 6 forward when the Flames need, or a middle 6 center. The Flames need someone who's probably a top 6 center. If it costs you Andersson, I almost feel it has to be a hockey trade, going back to the days of 1-for-1s. But we haven't seen a big blockbuster like that. Like, I think it was 32 Thoughts that said. We haven't seen that since the PK Subban trade. So I think for now, the trade looking unlikely. I agree. But with us hitting over the 40-minute mark, I think that's it for today, folks. For those of you who want to catch more of the Calgary Flames Game Over, let me tell you who's going to be hosting the next couple. So next week it is going, or on Monday rather, it is going to be Matt and potentially we haven't confirmed this, potentially a new Game Over voice for the Game Over Flames. So excited for Matt to introduce them to you. Then on Tuesday, a back-to-back on the road for the Flames. Anand will bring you that one. And then you got the baseball-esque series where you got a day off in between. But the Flames and Blues, they'll go again on Thursday. And that one will be a fun one. We got myself and another new face. But thank you so much for watching, Flames fans. This has been Game Over Calgary. Myself, Conrad Krausert. Please go check out all of the socials listed down in the description for all of our Game Over Calgary hosts. But we will see you back here at the same darn channel. Remember, it is a 5:30 puck drop for the Flames and Blackhawks on your return on Monday.